between visiting A from B and visiting C from A is, when you visited A from B, A was still in the stack. It's not popped out. So that's why we call that as a back edge, because when you visit a vertex, so like you have a path from A to B, and then this, when A is still in the stack, right, and you're visiting from B, you have a path from A to B, and then this back edge kind of complete the cycle. Whereas here, C is the vertex that you have pushed as well as popped up. So that edge is called a forward edge. So it's not a back edge, we call it as a forward edge. Because that's not a cycle. You can see you don't have cycle involving C. You cannot come back, you can go to C but you cannot come back to A. So that's called a forward edge. Okay? So you have to know the different terminologies for the edges when you deal with directed graphs. So when you visit a vertex that is already pushed and popped out, notice that C is already pushed as well as popped out. So this edge is a forward edge. So now we are done with A. You cannot do anything else at A, so you pop out A also. So you can see there are some more vertices that are yet to be explored in this graph. So it started at A, we were able to visit only B and C, not D and E. So that shows that this graph does not have one single connected component. Remember I introduced the term connected component before. So if you are able to start with one vertex and visit all the vertices using depth first search, you can say that graph has a one single connected component. But here, start with A, you cannot visit every other vertex, you can visit only some of them. So A, B, C are in one component, but D and E are in another component. Okay? So, so we basically did depth first search for one component, so we have to do depth first search for the other components. Let's start with D, the lowest of the two alphabets, and do a depth first search. So D is the fourth vertex to be pushed. You keep track of the vertex order from the previous component. So fourth vertex to be pushed to the stack, and then from D you visit its neighbor. So you have two choices. You can go to C or you go to E. Right? So if you go with the lowest alphabet, you can go to C, but you see that C is in a different component. It's not even the same component as D. And you have pushed and popped it out also. So when you visit a vertex that is in a different component through an edge, we call that as a cross edge. So a cross edge is an edge that you use to visit a vertex in a different component. Okay? So you have to really differentiate different edges, the terminology. So tree edge, where you visit the vertex for the first time and you push that vertex onto the stack. Back edge, you visit a vertex that is still in the stack. Okay? And forward edge, you visit a vertex from a vertex which is in the stack, but the vertex you're visiting like C is already pushed as well as popped up, but still the same component. And the cross edge is an edge that you use to visit a vertex that's in a different component. Okay? So you cannot do much by visiting C. So the only vertex you can visit is E. So you push E onto the stack. So that is the fifth vertex to be on the stack. Can you do anything else at E? Can you do anything at E when you visit E? No. So you cannot go anywhere else. So what you do? Pop C on the stack as your fourth vertex to be popped out. And then you come back to D. You cannot do anything else at D. So you also pop out D. So that's the fifth vertex to be popped out. So you start from D, you are able to visit only this component, which is D. Okay, this vertex. So D and E are in one component, A, B, C are in different components. And this cross edge is connecting the two components. And you can't go in either direction, you can go only in one direction from this component to this component. So this is a directed graph, and you should know how to do depth first search on directed graphs. So I can give you a small directed graph and ask you to identify the different edges. Okay? directed graph in which there is no cycle. Okay? So we will shortly call it as a DAG. Okay? So a DAG is a directed graph with no cycle. So based on what you have seen so far, how would you determine whether a given directed graph is an acyclic graph or not? When you do depth first search, what is that? Can anyone repeat it? Why that is sufficient? Why? When you do depth first search on a directed graph, when you encounter a back edge, it means like this. You were doing depth first search from one vertex, right? And you are using the tree edges to visit the other vertices, right? And you keep on visiting the other vertices, and then you encounter this back edge. Okay? Because when you traverse this path from, say, this is A, B, C, D, and so on, right? A is still in the stack. You push A into the stack, then you push B into the stack, then you push C into the stack, push B into the stack, E, F, G, and so on. And this back edge from G to A, when you visit to that, A is still in the stack. Right? So, which means you have a path from A to G through all the tree edges, and this back edge is making you to be able to complete that path with there's a cycle, right, from G to A. So that's why when you encounter a back edge, again by definition, back edge means visiting a vertex that is still in a stack from another vertex like this, you have a cycle. So if you encounter a cycle in a directed graph and do depth first search, the graph has a cycle. So when you do depth first search on a directed graph, you do not encounter a back edge, then you can say the directed graph is an acyclic graph. So you should not encounter any back edge when you do depth first search on directed graph. So you can try on this example to do depth first search. Start with A, you push that vertex into the stack. Which vertex you visit next? B, that's a tree edge. Then C or D? D is the depth first search. So you go push D, that's a tree edge. Then you need to pop out D. You cannot do anything else at D. So you pop out D and go back to B. And then can you do anything at B? So you pop out B, then go back to A. What you do at A? Go to C. You visit it for the first time. So it's a tree edge. Then what you do at C? Go to D. What about D? Huh? D is it's already visited, pushed and popped out. So what do you call that edge? It's called a forward edge. When you visit a vertex that is already pushed as well as popped out from the stack, that's called a forward edge. It's not a back edge. Okay? So you have to, can you do anything else at C? So you pop it out, then what you do? Go back to A and then go to, and what is that edge? The forward edge again, because D is pushed as well as popped out. So then you come back to A and pop out A. So you are able to visit all the vertices starting from A, and these are the classification edges. So tree edges and forward edges. You don't have any back edges. So when you do depth first search on a directed graph and you don't have any back edge, then you call that graph as a directed acyclic graph. So it means it does not have any cycle. This graph has a cycle. What's the cycle you can see here? Can anyone say what cycle is here? A, B, path from A to C, and now you are going to A using that edge. So that edge is a back edge that creates a cycle. Okay? So once you encounter a back edge, you can say that graph does not have has a cycle, so it's not a directed acyclic graph. Okay? Clear? When I'm talking here, some people are busy browsing a cell phone. So what is that? What you are doing is more important than what I'm talking here. Please don't do that. I'm trying to help you out in different ways, like giving all the take-home exams and everything. And since I started the class, I see some people are busy just moving their hand on the phone. Alright. So we are now going to focus more on directed acyclic graph. So the title of this chapter or module is topological sort. So we can do topological sort only on directed acyclic graphs. Okay? So this is another graph. We'll do a depth first search on it and find out if it's a DAG or not. And if it's a DAG, we will be able to do what's called a topological sort for it. So let's start with A. And what you do? Go to B. So that's a tree edge. Then yes. So you break the die alphabetically. So this is F. Then what you do? Pop out F, because F, everything is coming towards F, so you cannot do anything at F. So you pop out F. Then go back to B. What do you do at B? Go to G. And what else you do? Go to? Okay. Because this edge is in this direction, so you cannot go from G to C. You have to go to H. What you can do now? Pop H, because this edge is in this direction. So you pop out H. So what you have to keep track of the labels. So what is the label for H to pop out? Already popped out F. So H is label 2. Then what do you do? You popped out G. So you come back. Sorry, popped out H. So you come back to G. So can you do anything else at G? So then go back to B. Right. So what do you do at B? Okay. Then go back to A. Then go to E. What do you do here? 6. Then this is this direction. So you could go to F, right? What edge is that? Forward edge. It's not a back edge because this F is already pushed as well as popped out from the stack. So, what do you do? Come back to E. Can you do anything else at E? So, then what you can do at A? So that's a forward edge. Can you do anything else at F? No. So that's it, right? You cannot do anything else at A. So you pop out A. So you have A, B, C. You visited all of them, but actually you visit all the vertices. You visited some of them, right? vertex you didn't visit?
C and D.
C and D. So what can you say about them? They are in a different component. A, B, E, F, G, H are in one component because we are able to start at A and visit all of these vertices, but not C and D. Right? So these two are in a different component. C and D are in a different component. So you start again from C. What label you put for C? You continue with the label. So from the previous component. So this is to be 7 and then go to, and what you do for D? Push and then go to, what do you call that edge? Somebody from this side? Is there a forward edge? We saw 4 types of edges. Free edge, back edge, forward edge, and then cross edge. This is a cross edge because this vertex edge is in a different component. When you visit a vertex in a different component, of course it is already pushed and popped, but it is not the same component as C and D are. So when you visit a vertex in a different component, it is a cross edge. So this is a cross edge. Can I do anything else at B? We have to pop out. So you have to keep track of the order. What's the number?
7.
And then go back to C and then what is that edge? Cross edge. Okay, so C and D are in one component and the rest are in another component. And this is a cross edge. So what can you say about this graph? We did depth first search, we classified all the edges. We had free edge, forward edge and cross edge. Did we encounter a back edge?
No.
So when you don't encounter a back edge during depth first search, we can call that graph, directed graph, as a directed acyclic graph. Okay, so this is a DAG. Okay, we should get used to this terminology. So when you have a DAG, we can write what is called the topological sort. The topological sort is nothing but a listing of the vertices. You have to write this vertices in some order, A, B, D, whatever order. And of course you cannot write in any order, you have to write in a certain order. What is the rule for topological sort? So the graph has to be a DAG, and it says an edge from U to V. As I said, topological sort is some listing of the vertices in order, in particular order. U should appear before V in the topological sort. Okay? So that's the definition. For every edge U to V in the DAG, U should appear before V. Not like exactly before V, somewhere before V. It could be exactly before V, but need not be. So we'll write the topological sort for this DAG and then come back to this definition. So how you write the topological sort for a DAG? So you have to do depth first search and write this ordering, push and pop order. We'll actually use the pop order. Write the vertices in the reverse order you pop them out. So reverse order means what's the last vertex you popped out? C. So write that first. And then the next vertex, which is B, and then A, right? 6, and then E is the 5th vertex, the 4th vertex is B, and then G, H, and F. So this is what is called, this is a topological sort for that DAG. And now you check the definition. You have an edge from A to B. A appears before B in the topological sort. For every edge, A to E, A appears before E. A to F, A appears before F. So you can cross-check. Okay? So for topological sort, if you have an edge from U to E in the DAG, U should appear before V. So this is the topological sort for that DAG acyclic graph. So it has lots of applications. So for example, you guys have a prerequisite hierarchy, right? You have seen the prerequisite chart for your computer science degree program. You have to take one course, some course before some other course and so on, right? So this would be used to plan what courses you would take, in what order. So when you run the depth first search on your prerequisite hierarchy, that graph is a directed acyclic graph. You start with your 118, 119 and then keep going, right? There's no cycle, which means you don't go back to your course, right? So given that DAG acyclic graph, you run the depth first search. You can then label all the vertices with this push and pop order and then write the vertices in the topological sort. So this is all a listing of your courses. So if you take the courses in this order, of course you take it for some semesters, one certain sequence of courses, then you can be sure that you meet all the prerequisite requirements. Okay? So even for planning your activity, so we kind of what you call CEOs and all these big people, they have different things to do and they can do only in certain order. So they have to do, say, task A before doing task B. So if they do a topological sort on their task, whatever the schedule, then they can know in what order they have to do those tasks. Okay? It has lots of applications. Any question? So now we are going to prove a theorem on this. So far we didn't do much proving. So this chapter will do more theorem proving from now. So what we are going to prove is what I said during the definition, that we call it as a necessary and sufficient condition. Have you come across this term, necessary and sufficient condition, in discrete structures class? When you say something is necessary as well as sufficient. Have you heard this? No? Okay. So at DAG, if you want to write a topological sort, right, the directed graph has to be a DAG. We know that, right? So that's a required condition. Means it's a necessary condition. So it's necessary for a directed graph to be a DAG if you want to write a topological sort. Not only that, it is sufficient. It means it is sufficient for a directed graph to be a DAG if you want to write a topological sort, which means we don't need any other requirement to be satisfied. As long as the directed graph is a directed acyclic graph, you can write the topological sort for it. So it's a required, necessary, as well as sufficient. In some cases, you require something that's necessary, but in addition to that, you require something else. Right? So in this case, it is a necessary as well as a sufficient condition. No other condition needs to be satisfied. Okay? So if a directed graph is a directed acyclic graph, is a DAG, then you can write a topological sort for it. So it's a required as well as sufficient. So let's prove each of those components. So first let's prove the necessary condition that the directed graph has to be a directed acyclic graph if you want to write a topological sort for it. So again, from your previous class, you would have seen different proving techniques, theorem proving techniques. What are the techniques you saw in your previous class? Can anyone name some technique? Proof by contradiction. Anything else? Contra, what?
Contraposition.
Okay, how different is that from contradiction?
If it's, I think it proves that if the first part is false, then the second part also has to be false.
Oh, okay. A implies B, then not B implies not A. Okay. So then proof by induction.